Hello and welcome to Dialogue. Hong Kong has just held its 8th term Legislative Council election, the citywide vote that takes place every 4 years to choose all 90 members of the legislature. This year's election drew extra attention as it unfolded just days after the deadly fire in the district of Tai Po. Hong Kong SAR Chief Executive John Lee has already placed the post-fire recovery and follow-up work at the top of the new legislature's agenda. What do the results of the election tell us about the development of high-quality democracy in Hong Kong? How will the new legislature work with the Hong Kong SAR government to build a safer and more resilient city? And how can the local government best seize the opportunities brought by China's high-quality growth? Join us for discussion today, live from Beijing. I'm Xu Qinduo. Joining me today are Holden CHOW Ho-ding, newly elected legislator for the Legislative Council of Hong Kong and Vice Chairman of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and the Progress of Hong Kong. Professor Witman Hung, Director of the Greater Bay Area Research Center of the China Silk Road iValley Research Institute, and Lawrence Ma, Member of the Election Committee of the Hong Kong SAR and Executive Council Chairman of the Hong Kong Legal Exchange Foundation. Welcome to the show. Well, Holden, I will start with you first. Congratulations on your election as a new term legislator. So this year's race in the geographic constituencies was especially competitive, let's say, with 51 candidates vying for 20 seats. What do you think helped you secure a place among the winners?
Well, first of all, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank my constituents in casting their vote to me so that I can be re-elected and continue my service to the people in Tuen Mun and Yuen Long, which is my constituency. I think I would say, first of all, the election this time is a successful election. Consider the fact that the election is being held right after the Tai Po fire, but then the election itself is being carried out in an orderly manner, and the public does attach a lot of importance to this election. You can look at the turnout rate. We have a higher turnout rate as compared to the last LegCo election 4 years ago. And you can see that people does participate in this election, and they do attach a lot of importance to this election. So I would say the election is a successful election. That's the first thing. The second thing about myself, my election outcome, of course, I have been serving my constituents for 4 years, and I'm sure that they acknowledge my effort. But more important, I would say the competition in this election is indeed fierce. Because we have more candidates running in this election. As compared to the election last time in 2021, there are 3 candidates running for election in my constituency. But then this time, we have 5 candidates. So if you look at the results, because the residents are offered more choices for them. And if you look at the election result, myself, I got 42,000 votes, and then the next candidate got 34,000, and then the third one got almost 30,000. So that actually showcased, you can tell from the narrow difference of vote between different candidates. So you can tell that actually we are running neck and neck. So you can see that how fierce the competition is. And but I'm sure that this is a good thing because the election is being carried out in an orderly manner, and all candidates have their own characters, they have their own experience with different backgrounds. So we are from diverse backgrounds, so more choices are offered to residents. And that's why we can tell from the election result, it's a fierce competition, but it's a good competition. That means people have more choices for them to make. And for them to consider too. So I would say that generally speaking, we are picking the best among the best candidates. to serve Hong Kong people in this LegCo election.
Yeah, best candidate to serve Hong Kong people. So your next term, what will be the priorities, for your next 4 years?
Yeah, I'm sure that the election being held right after the Tai Po fire, one of the reasons is we would like to see the new LegCo. We even have a lawmaker elect. We can communicate and work with the government immediately, and then we can start working on, the follow-up work. As you would see that one of the major priority right now is how to deal with the follow-up work on the Tai Po fire, because I would say the Hong Kong government, they have already done a good work in relocating the victims, because even within 3 days, more than 1,500 victims have already been relocated to transitional housing, and to cater to their need. And we are actually moving on to the next phase of follow-up work, which is how to rebuild the Tai Po area. And that is also a very important issue for a lot of people. And we are now figuring out some feasible solutions to the government. And myself, I'm working with my team to work on some solutions on how to rebuild the Tai Po area. And that we actually need to join hands with other lawmakers elect to work on that, because we need to start consult the residents, consult the Hong Kong general public, and we need people from different expertise, because in this new LegCo we have new lawmakers with different expertise. Some of them are experienced surveyors, some of them are very experienced engineers. We need their help, to figure out feasible solutions to the government. And this is something that we look forward to working on. And at the same time, we need to also look after some major livelihood issues. And one of the things that I'm working on right now is since the Hong Kong government decided to raise the charges on using the public hospital, and we are actually calling for to broaden the exemption, exempting more elderly people from being charged on using the public hospital service. This is something that also people have concerns, and we have to work on that too. So we need to work on how to rebuild the Tai Po area after the fire. We need to work on how to regulate the maintenance on constructions work on the high-rise building to make sure that there's a good safety standard to follow in Hong Kong. And at the same time, we also have to work on a wide range of livelihood issues, including the things that I just told you, the elderly, they need public hospital service, but they don't want to face too much burden. And we are actually working on that too. Yeah. These are something that...
Yes, the welfare of the people you are serving, obviously. Thank you, Mr. Holden. Holden, we will have you again probably in the future after you entering your service there in the Hong Kong government. Well, let's turn to Lawrence. Lawrence, this is the basically second time we have this after the NPC Standing Committee updated the electoral system in Hong Kong. So how do you look at the election this time around?
Well, as Holden has said, the election is well represented. The candidate covers the entire sector, all the sectors of the community. It has covered political interests, it has covered financial and business interests, professional interests, and local community interests. So it is very well represented for this Legislative Council, and also the number that turns out, the voters that turn out to vote, has surpassed the last election. So it is, I say, a very good result for this election.
Witman, the new Legislative Council consists of 40 members elected by the Election Committee, 30 from functional constituencies, and 20 directly elected from geographical constituencies. Authorities say this lineup reflects the principle of patriots administering Hong Kong and bringing together individuals with rich experience and expertise needed to serve the community. How do you assess the overall composition of the newly elected LegCo?
Well, just like what Lawrence said, it's well balanced and well represented. We can see, obviously, there are people who directly from the direct election constitution, that the people like Holden who are really, in the local communities. We have functional constituencies which represent different ways of work, our professionals, our business, industry. And then we have the 40 members from the election committee, which by itself of 1,500 people represented all rounds of work in Hong Kong, including both the workers, the fishermen, as well as business and professionals. So I think it's very rounded. Even though I didn't run for election, but I did help some of my friends in their campaign, both in the last time election and this time election in the election committee constituency. And I can see the quality of all the candidates are much better than what we have seen in the previous elections, where people are focusing on political and ideological kind of fight instead of really addressing the needs of the people and the community and the development of Hong Kong.
Yeah, to meet the pragmatic needs of the residents there. So Witman, of course, we mentioned this principle, patriots administering Hong Kong. Why is it important to uphold such a principle throughout the practice, the election process? People outside Hong Kong, especially in some Western countries, people are wondering why, you are sticking to such a principle.
Well, first of all, it was one of the principles when we first, established this thing of Hong Kong people administrating Hong Kong, when they first redoing the Basic Law and the Joint Declaration. And secondly, we have to remember Hong Kong is not an independent state. It is a city. It's a special administrative region of the People's Republic of China. So if we have people who are non-patriots administering Hong Kong, they are not working in the best interest of the country, but also of the Hong Kong people, because we, Hong Kong people, we're still part of the overall China, and we are Chinese citizens first, then and Hong Kong residents. So we have seen the examples in the past where there are people who have a different agenda rather than a patriot, and when they were involved in, especially in our legislature, they have different purposes. They're not really working towards the betterment of the livelihood of Hong Kong or the development of Hong Kong. Rather, they are focusing on political fights and, in fact, hindering Hong Kong from development and from going better. So this is a very fundamental requirement. The definition of patriots is quite wide. It's not that you have to be ideological, follow certain things. It's just you're recognizing Hong Kong is part of China. We love our motherland, and we have to maintain the interests of both the Hong Kong people and that of the motherland.
Well, sticking to that point, Lawrence, of course, if you look at the foreign media or commentaries carried in the foreign media recently, right after the high-rise fire in Hong Kong, there are more questioning than reporting, objectively about the fire, like causes, solutions, rescue, recovery. No, some of them are, I would say, political. Like they say, the fire is a symbol of a systemic failure of Hong Kong, or on the election, which happened 11 days after the fire. The government prioritized its political calendar over public grief. What's your response?
Well, first of all, the Basic Law protects freedom of the press. It is a constitutional right to report. Now, but on the other hand, under the national security law, it is an offense to incite subversion of the government. Now, how do you draw the line? Well, the line to be drawn is that when you make a criticism of the government, it has to be a constructive one. It has to be factually based. It has to be based on established facts. You cannot do a smearing vilification with no factual basis. I mean, your criticism has to be proportionate. You cannot base on wrong facts or facts that has not been verified. So people, some of the people who utilize this opportunity to vilify the government, to undermine the public confidence in our administration. And the press, to a certain extent, some of them have carried these remarks and comment by way of reporting into their media. So people get persuaded or people get swayed because of these remarks, which most of them are not based on ascertained facts. So this is not something that the national security law would tolerate. So as a result, what we have to do is we have to make constructive comments based on established facts. And this is what also for the media, it is called responsible reporting.
Responsible reporting there, and I guess it's a response to the government action from these legal bodies or the law enforcements. They talk about there's a concern expressing for media like a concern of civil liberty and the press freedom. They say they are under threat. So Witman, I want your input here. You think press freedom or civil liberties is under threat in Hong Kong?
No, on the contrary, I think we have always had this freedom of express and freedom of expression, but it's not unlimited. Okay, if the freedom of press or freedom of actually affects or threatens the security of the nation, or for that matter, the Hong Kong, then we need to watch. Just like what Lawrence just said. I remember a long time ago, some people from BBC once said, they say opinions are cheap. It's facts that matter. Okay, so if it's a reporting, then it should be reporting based on facts and not allegations that are not supported. If it's just an opinion, they should clearly state it's an opinion and it's not a fact. But sometimes our press kind of just confuse and mingle with these two, and they turn opinion and they report opinion as if it is fact. And that really, in my opinion, is not only potentially breaching the law, but also not an ethical way of reporting.
Lawrence, let's turn to these efforts by the government and the communities in Hong Kong in response to the fire. The Hong Kong government has said that living allowances for families affected by the fire has been increased from 50,000 Hong Kong dollars to 100,000 per household. And also a series of special relief and support policies have also been rolled out. And how do you evaluate the post-fire work, relief work, and recovery work, and the support efforts by the Hong Kong government?
Well, the government has been very active and very supportive of the victims. There have been teams of the police teams going into the scene, try to locate the bodies of victims. They have to go through digging into the dirt. Some of the aftermath of the scene, they contained a lot of dirt and they were very messy and were still contaminated. So to identify any body parts of the victim, and so as to make sure that people got rescued, people who can be rescued or got rescued, people cannot be rescued would be identified and certified death. And also the amount of compensation, 100,000 per household, to me is a historical high for all the victims in Hong Kong. Of course, this is a very special disaster that we are now facing. But to me, $100,000 for each household is not a small sum.
Not a small sum there. Witman, of course, we know that one of the top priorities for the new legislature will be the recovery and also the related work for future prevention of fire with the high rises there. And also the government is to set up an independent commission chaired by a judge to investigate the deadly fire and recommend improvements. And Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee has also talked about institutional reforms to improve, to make the city safer and more resilient. What kind of reforms do you think people are having in their minds for probably as part of the new reforms?
I think one of these things is really to review the laws and regulations related to, for example, building maintenance and all these kind of fire prevention. We have certain laws and regulations already. Apparently, this time, this disaster happened, and somehow the system, we were still evaluating whether it could have prevented or whether it's just a pure, sad, coincidence. But one of the investigations will be look at the current laws and regulations and how they are executed. For example, I mean, there were some reporting about whether this kind of supervision is based on paperwork or is it based on actual testing. I believe these things. The current law and regulation has been in place for decades. Okay, it was based on the past. It was based on experience. I mean, we reviewed it last time. I remember when this law and regulation was changed was also a very big fire when I was very young. This is probably 30, 40 years ago. And then they review it at that time, and they think the current they implement some new law and regulations to prevent it. Now it's probably because such a big disaster happened, it's time to review and see whether the current system, the current regulatory framework, as well as execution, is indeed adequate to prevent this kind of disaster from happening again. And one of the things also, I think, in the past, because if you think about it, decades ago there were not a lot of technologies that we can use. Today we have a lot of new technologies. We are able to do, for example, surveillance and this kind of thing. So I think what we need to do, the so-called institutional reforms, is really to review A, the laws and regulation, and B, how they're actually executed. And I think to prevent this kind of disasters from happening again.
Mm-hmm. Lawrence, are we 100% sure of the causes of the fire? And of course, based on that, what kind of measures we are going to introduce to prevent any future instance like that, to protect the people there?
Well, yes, I agree with Witman. I mean, the independent commission of inquiry is important. It will investigate how the disaster is caused. But what is important is with legal reform, the fire safety regulations as well as the building management regulations will have to be looked at. Because at this time we have, from the press, we are confirmed that the scaffold nets were of inferior quality. And how do we address these problems? How do we detect this from the fire safety perspective? What is the law that has to be amended in order to make sure there's no inferior quality of fire safety related materials to be used or would be used in the future? As for building management, there are the building services manager, our engineer, was apprehended and charged for manslaughter. Now, there has been suspicion of corruption, that they have deliberately used inferior quality of scaffold nets. Now, how do we safeguard that from a building management perspective? Should we have an independent engineer stationed in every incorporated council, incorporated owners meeting, so that they will safeguard the residents' interests against any corruptions from an external building services engineering company who approve the inferior quality scaffold net? So these are all sorts of questions that will bring out from the independent commission of inquiries, and there should be a lot of recommendations and a lot of initiative for change. So I would expect that the incoming Legislative Council would have to deal with legislative changes as well as to assist the government in implementing all these new policies so as to safeguard Hong Kong people's life and security.
Mm-hmm. Well, Witman, since you are based in the Great Bay Area, doing research of Hong Kong's development, also as part of the national growth there, We know that the 4-year term of the new Legislative Council will unfold alongside the rollout of China's 15th five-year plan. Do you expect Hong Kong to make a more proactive role in the national strategy, and how can the SAR better integrate into the country's overall development and jump on the opportunity brought by the development?
Yes, I think it's very important. If you look at the 15th five-year plan, this is the first time when you say Hong Kong should better integrate and service the overall development of China. So it's not just integrate, but also service. This is the first time the word service appeared in the five-year plan for Hong Kong. So I think the last time we were still talking about how we better integrate. Now we know we have been doing a lot of integration, especially under the Greater Bay Area Development Plan. I've seen a lot of progress. I've seen a lot of better integration. But now is how we service. I mean, what they say is what is Hong Kong best at and needed by the country. I think it is important, and I have actually mentioned this in my previous suggestion to the government, to the Hong Kong government openly, is that we should have our own five-year plan, which is corresponding to the overall five-year plan of the country. Macau has started that 5 years ago. Okay, they have their own five-year plan, which have a KPI, which then on a yearly basis that measures against the overall five-year plan. I think Hong Kong, we need to implement such a thing. I mean, of course, we have a lot of priorities, but this is, the way we do it is that if we can have our own five-year plan, which is derived based on our strength and also what the national five-year plan mentioned that Hong Kong should do, then we have a much better guideline and measurement of how we can better integrate and service the national five-year plan.
Mm-hmm. So Lawrence, so development of Hong Kong and also the nation more aligned for a better future for both sides?
Yes. Yes, I mean, the five-year plan is magnificent. I mean, Hong Kong has been, in the five-year plan, if you're not aware, Hong Kong has been designated as the Asia-Pacific Dispute Resolution Center. So if you read the news yesterday, President Xi was meeting a group of business people who do business overseas. And President Xi was saying, well, because of the international conflicts that is happening all worldwide these days, Chinese business going overseas, investing overseas, would have to be vigilant about their interests being protected. So Hong Kong would aptly play this role to be a dispute resolution center. As we all know, Hong Kong has the International Mediation Organization. So Hong Kong should further develop itself into an international investment protection dispute arbitration center for investor-state arbitration. And that would further Hong Kong's role as the Asia-Pacific Dispute Resolution Center, as well it would perform the role as to protect Chinese interest in overseas investments. So that would be Hong Kong accomplishing the role in the 15-year plan.
Mm-hmm. And the future of Hong Kong, we know Hong Kong, the largest IPO in the world, 2025, and also the freest economy in the world, again, being ranked number one. Lawrence, are you confident of Hong Kong economy and overall development?
Yes, of course. I mean, Hong Kong has been picking up on IPOs, and as lawyers, we all know that Hong Kong has now become probably the number one listing center for all for international for IPO business. So thanks to the China, which give us a lot of listing opportunities, as vis-a-vis Singapore and other countries like the New York Stock Exchange and Luxembourg. So Hong Kong is striving to become again and protecting its status as the world financial center.
Right. On that, we are coming to the end of today's discussion. You can also watch us on the CGTN app on YouTube. Thank you for being with us. I'm Xu Qinduo. See you next time.